I stood in the hallway of my childhood home, frozen, my hand still on the doorknob I had just closed behind me. I had come back to grab the portfolio I forgot that morning, something I needed for an afternoon client meeting. The house was supposed to be empty. My parents usually left for their Wednesday lunch date by noon, but there they were, sitting at the kitchen table, voices drifting through the half-open door. My mother spoke first, her tone cold and matter-of-fact. "We finalized everything with the attorney this morning. The house, the savings, the business. It all goes to Derek." I heard my father, a Portland accountant who built his firm from nothing over 30 years, had a heart attack right there at the kitchen table. His voice was steady, almost relieved. He made his choice when he walked away from the firm. "Bertram does not deserve our support." My mother agreed without hesitation. He chose his path. We owe him nothing. I did not move. I did not breathe. I simply stood there, invisible in my own childhood home, listening to my parents erase me from their lives with the same casual tone they might use to discuss what to have for dinner. The portfolio could wait. Everything could wait. Because in that moment, I realized I had been fooling myself for years, thinking that somehow, someday, they might actually see me. That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks of showing up to Sunday dinners, smiling through gritted teeth, watching my younger brother Derek bask in their pride, while I became background noise. 3 weeks of watching them lie to my face, pretending we were still a family. I am Bertram Johnson, 28 years old, a graphic designer living in downtown Portland. I chose art school over joining my father Richard's accounting firm, a decision that apparently sealed my fate as the family disappointment. My brother Derek, 25 and freshly minted as a junior partner at Dad's firm, could do no wrong. Every Sunday dinner was the same performance. Derek would talk about closing another client, landing another account, impressing another senior partner. My parents would beam like he had discovered cold fusion. Then Mom would turn to me with that pinched smile and ask about my little design projects, her voice dripping with the kind of pity you reserve for children playing pretend. I never called them projects. I called them campaigns, clients, contracts. But the words died in the translation between my mouth and their ears. To them, I was still the son who threw away his potential on finger painting and computer doodles. My girlfriend Amanda noticed the change in me after that day in the hallway. We had been together for 2 years, living together for 6 months in a modest apartment near the Pearl District. She was a middle school teacher with more emotional intelligence in her pinky finger than my entire family combined. "What happened?" she asked that night, curling up beside me on our thrift store couch. I told her everything. The conversation I overheard, the will that erased me, the years of being compared and found wanting. She was furious in that beautiful, protective way that made me fall in love with her in the first place. "You need to confront them," she said, her dark eyes flashing. "You need to tell them you know." But I did not. Week after week I showed up. I smiled. I nodded. I watched them pretend to care while secretly they had already buried me. There was something almost scientific about it, like I was conducting an experiment. How long could people maintain a performance when they thought you did not know the truth? The answer, apparently, was indefinitely. Derek was unbearable during those 3 weeks. He had just gotten a promotion to handle the firm's biggest client, some tech startup that needed complicated tax structuring. Dad clapped him on the back at dinner, told everyone in earshot that his son was a natural, a born businessman. Mom actually teared up with pride. Then she turned to me. "And how are your little design things going, Bertram?" Little design things. I had just landed a contract with a regional brewery to redesign their entire brand identity, a $20,000 project that would take 3 months. But in that moment, I just smiled and said, "Fine, Mom." "They are going fine." Amanda kicked me under the table. I ignored her. The pretending became its own kind of meditation. I started noticing things I had trained myself not to see. The way Mom's face would light up when Derek walked into a room and dim slightly when I did. The way Dad would lean forward, engaged, when Derek talked about work but lean back, distant, when I mentioned mine. The way family photos on the mantel were carefully curated. Derek's college graduation, front and center. Mine, tucked in the back corner, half hidden by a potted plant. I had spent so many years trying to earn my way back into their good graces that I had never stopped to ask myself why I was trying so hard. What was I fighting for? Their approval? Their love? Or just the idea of what a family should be? On the third Sunday after overhearing the will conversation, something shifted. Derek was bragging about some big meeting he had scheduled, talking about landing a whale client, when Dad interrupted him. "That is my boy," Richard said, raising his glass of wine. "Always thinking big, always reaching for the next level." Derek grinned, soaking it in. Then he glanced at me with this look. It was not quite pity, not quite contempt, something in between. A look that said, "See? This is what winning looks like." I excused myself to the bathroom, stood in front of the mirror, and really looked at myself. 30 years old in 2 years. A successful career I built from nothing. A woman who loved me. A life I was proud of. And I was still showing up here, begging for scraps of validation from people who had already decided I was not worth their time. Amanda was quiet on the drive home. Finally, she said, "You cannot keep doing this to yourself." "I know," I said, and I meant it. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in 3 weeks. I had made a decision without fully realizing it. I was done chasing their approval. I was done pretending their opinion of me mattered. I was done playing the role of the disappointing son in their perfect family narrative. I just did not know how done I was about to be. 3 days later, on a Wednesday night, I was in bed reading beside Amanda when my phone lit up with a text message. It was 11:14 at night. The message was from Mom. I opened it, expecting maybe a reminder about some family event or a forwarded meme she did not understand. Instead, I read 7 words that made my blood run cold. "Don't call or don't come. It's over between us." No context, no explanation. Just a cold, brutal dismissal delivered via text message at 11 at night. I read it 3 times, my heart pounding. Amanda was already asleep beside me, her breathing soft and steady. I stared at the message, trying to decode it, trying to understand what I had done to deserve this. Had they found out I overheard them? Had Derek said something? Had I finally crossed some invisible line? Then something inside me snapped, not into anger, into clarity. They wanted it to be over? Fine, it was over. I was not going to grovel. I was not going to ask for explanation or forgiveness for sins I did not commit. I was not going to play their games anymore. I typed 2 words and hit send before I could second-guess myself. Got it. Then I put my phone on silent, rolled over, and closed my eyes. For the first time in 28 years, I felt free. I woke up at 7 the next morning to my phone vibrating so violently it had walked itself halfway across the nightstand. Amanda was already up, probably making coffee in the kitchen. I reached for my phone, bleary and confused, and my stomach dropped. 53 missed calls, 87 text messages, 12 voicemails. I sat up fast, my heart suddenly racing. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. The messages were from everyone. Mom, Dad, Derek, Aunt Carol, family friends, people I had not spoken to in years. I started scrolling through them, my hands shaking. "Mom, how dare you? Call me right now, Dad. You need to explain yourself immediately. Derek, what the hell did you do? Mom's having a breakdown. Aunt Carol. Bertram, please call your mother. She's hysterical. Uncle Frank. This is not like you. Call your parents. Family friend Margaret. Your mother is beside herself." What happened? I felt like I had walked into the wrong movie. What was happening? What had I done? I scrolled back to my message thread with Mom, reading the exchange from last night. Her message, "Don't call or don't come. It's over between us." My response, "Got it." That was it. That was the entire conversation. I showed Amanda when she came back with coffee, her face still soft with sleep. "What on earth?" she said, reading over my shoulder. "Why are they all freaking out?" "I have no idea," I said, "but I am about to find out." I called Aunt Carol first. She was my mom's younger sister, someone I had always felt closer to than my own parents. She picked up on the first ring. "Bertram." Her voice was sharp, accusing. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" "Carol," I said slowly, "I genuinely have no idea what is happening. Can you please explain? Your mother needed you last night and you abandoned her. How could you be so callous? Your father was rushed to the hospital, and you just said, 'Got it,' like you did not even care." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What are you talking about?" "What am I talking about? She texted you that your father had a heart attack, and you responded with 2 words. 'Got it,' like she had asked you to pick up milk." My hands went numb. "Carol, she did not text me about a heart attack. She told me it was over between us, that I should not call or come. That is what I responded to." The line went silent. Then, quietly, "What?" "I am sending you a screenshot right now," I said, my fingers fumbling with the phone. "Look at what she actually sent me." I heard her phone chime as the image came through. More silence. Then, oh my God. "Bertram, that is not what she sent. She sent something completely different." "What did she send?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "She said your father collapsed. Heart attack. At Mercy Hospital ER. Come now." That is what she sent. I saw the message myself this morning when she showed me. I looked at my phone screen again, at the cold dismissal staring back at me. That is not what I received. Amanda was gripping my arm now, her face pale. I put the phone on speaker so she could hear. "Bertram," Carol said, her voice shaking now, "you need to get to the hospital, right now. I do not know what is happening, but something is very wrong." We threw on clothes and drove to Mercy Hospital in silence. My mind was racing. How could 2 completely different messages exist? Was my phone broken? Had I somehow misread it? But no, I had the screenshot right there. The words were clear as day. The hospital emergency room waiting area was full of my family. Mom saw me first. Her face went from grief to fury so fast it gave me whiplash. "You." She stood up, her voice carrying across the entire waiting room. "How dare you show your face here?" Every head turned. I felt 20 pairs of eyes land on me. "Mom," I tried to say, but she was already moving toward me, her finger pointed like a weapon. "Your father was dying and you said, 'Got it.' Like it was nothing. Like he was nothing." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. "Mom, please, just look at what you actually sent me." But Derek was there now, stepping between us, his face twisted with something that looked like righteous anger, but felt like performance. "You have always been jealous of me. Now you are staging this drama when Dad is fighting for his life?" "I am not staging anything," I said, my voice louder than I intended. "Someone needs to explain to me how Mom and I have completely different versions of the same text message." A small crowd had gathered now. Dad's business partner Harold was there looking concerned. Aunt Carol pushed through, taking my phone from my hand. "Let me see," she said. I watched her face as she compared my phone to Mom's. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, to something that looked like fear. "Sharon," she said to my mom, "these are 2 completely different messages." "That is impossible," Mom said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. Harold stepped closer, looking at both phones. He was a big man, 62 years old, who had been Dad's partner since before I was born. This is very strange. May I? He took both phones, examining them carefully. His background was in forensic accounting. If anyone could spot something off, it would be him. These messages were sent at the exact same timestamp, he said slowly. But the content is completely different. That should not be possible unless... Unless what? I asked. Unless one of these devices has been compromised, he said, looking up at me with serious eyes. Someone would need access to intercept and modify messages before they are sent or after they are received. That is sophisticated. That is not accidental. The room went quiet. I saw Derek's face twitch, just slightly. A micro-expression that came and went so fast I almost missed it. But I did not miss it. Before anyone could speak, a doctor emerged from the double doors. Richard Johnson's family? We all turned. The doctor looked tired but calm. He is stable. The heart attack was mild. We want to keep him overnight for observation, but he should make a full recovery with proper rest and medication. Mom started crying, but this time from relief. Carol hugged her. The tension in the room released like a popped balloon. Everyone started talking at once, asking questions, making plans, but I was still staring at Derek, and he was very carefully not looking at me. Harold caught my eye and tilted his head slightly toward the hallway. I followed him out of the waiting room, Amanda close behind. Once we were alone, Harold spoke quietly. "Bertram, I have known you since you were 8 years old. I do not believe for 1 second that you would blow off your father's heart attack." "Thank you," I said, and meant it, but I also do not believe in coincidences. Someone modified those messages. Someone wanted your family to think you did not care. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Who benefits from you looking bad? We both knew the answer. We just were not ready to say it out loud yet. "I need to make some calls," Harold said. "I have a friend who does cybersecurity consulting. With your mother's permission, I would like him to examine her phone." "Do it," I said. Amanda and I left the hospital an hour later, after Dad was settled in his room. He had been awake briefly, weak but alert, and had looked at me with confusion when Mom explained what had happened. He did not say much, just watched me with an expression I could not quite read. In the car, Amanda finally spoke. "Derek did this." "I know," I said. "But why? What does he gain from making them hate you?" I thought about the will, the inheritance, the life Derek had built on being the golden child. "I do not know yet," I said, "but I am going to find out." That night I could not sleep. I kept replaying the look on Derek's face in the hospital, the flash of something that might have been panic when Harold mentioned compromised devices. The way he had positioned himself as my defender while simultaneously planting seeds of doubt about my mental state. My little brother, the kid I taught to ride a bike, the teenager I helped with homework, the young adult I cheered for when he graduated college. When had he started hating me enough to destroy me? Harold's cybersecurity friend Marcus was a thin, serious man in his early 30s who looked like he lived on energy drinks and conspiracy theories. He met us 2 days later at a coffee shop downtown, bringing equipment that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. Mom had reluctantly agreed to let him examine her phone after Dad came home from the hospital. She still looked at me with suspicion, but Carol had been working on her, planting seeds of doubt about the whole situation. Marcus worked quietly for 20 minutes, connecting Mom's phone to his laptop, running programs I did not understand. Then his eyebrows went up. "Well," he said, "this is interesting. What did you find?" Harold asked. "Spyware, professional grade. It has been on this phone for approximately 6 months. He turned his laptop so we could see the screen. It is designed to intercept communications. It can modify messages before they are sent or received, redirect calls, access contacts, the whole package." My stomach tightened. "Can you trace who installed it?" Marcus typed for a moment. "The software requires physical access to install. Someone had to have this phone in their hands for at least 5 to 10 minutes. He clicked through more screens. The license for this particular spyware was purchased with a credit card. He turned the laptop toward us. Credit card registered to Derek Johnson. The room went silent. Amanda reached over and took my hand. Harold's jaw tightened. "Can you see what else it has been doing?" I asked quietly. Marcus nodded and started pulling up logs. "Oh, this is extensive. Let me show you." For the next hour, we watched my brother's systematic destruction of my relationship with my parents unfold in data logs and modified messages. Messages I had sent inviting them to my design showcase 6 months ago, blocked entirely so they never received them. Messages about family gatherings that Derek had modified to make me sound dismissive or rude. Calls I had made that were diverted so they never went through. Then Derek would tell them I never called. It was meticulous. It was calculated. It was absolutely devastating. "But why?" Mom asked, her voice small. She had joined us after Dad fell asleep, and Carol had convinced her to hear us out. "Why would Derek do this?" "That is what we need to find out," Harold said grimly. Amanda, who had been quiet up until now, spoke up. "Follow the money. That is what they always say in movies, right? If Derek is willing to go this far, there has to be a reason. What does he gain?" "The inheritance," I said quietly. "He gets everything if they cut me out completely. But that is not enough," Harold said slowly. "That is a motive for creating distance, sure. But this level of effort?" He pointed at the laptop screen. "This is obsessive. This is desperation." Over the next 3 days, we dug deeper. Amanda's friend worked at a local bank and quietly confirmed that Derek had opened multiple high-interest loan accounts over the past 2 years. Marcus used some legally questionable methods to access Derek's credit report. The number at the bottom made me feel sick. $197,000 in debt, most of it gambling. Harold looked at the report with the expression of a man who had just watched his world tilt sideways. Then he said something that changed everything. "I need to look at the firm's books." We met at Harold's house that evening. He had brought home copies of financial records, spreading them across his dining room table. His wife brought us coffee and sandwiches, then quietly disappeared. Harold worked with the focus of a surgeon, pulling up accounts, cross-referencing transactions, following paper trails. I watched his face grow darker with each discovery. Finally, he sat back. "That son of a bitch. What did you find?" I asked. Harold turned his computer screen toward me. Small transfers. Never more than $5,000 at a time. Moved through different accounts, always coded as expense reimbursements or client settlements. 18 months of this. He met my eyes. Derek has been embezzling from the firm, from his own father. The room spun slightly. How much? $193,000. Almost exactly matching his gambling debts. Harold ran a hand over his face. "He has been stealing from Richard to pay off casinos. And if your father ever audits the books properly, Derek goes to prison." "So he needed to make sure he got everything in the will," Amanda said slowly, working through it. "Because if Bertram got half, the firm would have to be valued properly for estate purposes, which means a thorough audit, which means Derek's theft would be discovered. And if Bertram was completely cut out," I added, following the logic, "then Derek could inherit the business, keep cooking the books, and no one would ever know." Harold nodded grimly. "He did not just want you out of the family, Bertram. He needed you out. You are the only thing standing between him and getting away with nearly $200,000 in theft." I felt something crack inside my chest. Not anger, something colder. My little brother had not just been playing favorites or stirring up sibling rivalry. He had been destroying my relationship with my parents to cover up crimes that could send him to prison. "We need to call the police," Amanda said. "No," Harold said firmly. "Not yet. If we go to the police now, with what we have, Derek will lawyer up immediately. He will claim Bertram fabricated evidence out of jealousy. Everyone in your family, already thinks you are the problem child, Bertram. Who are they going to believe? Then what do we do? I asked. Harold smiled, and it was not a nice smile. We make him expose himself. I have an idea. Over the next week, Harold and Marcus set up an elaborate trap. Harold created a fake potential client, a tech executive, supposedly looking to move money offshore for tax purposes. The kind of thing that was technically legal but ethically gray. The kind of client who would pay enormous fees. Marcus created a complete digital identity for this fictional person, complete with a company website, social media profiles, and a traceable financial history. Then Harold, playing the role of intermediary, mentioned this client to Derek in passing. I heard Derek's voice on the recording Harold made of the conversation. I have been playing it in my head ever since. Derek. How much are we talking? Harold. High 7 figures in assets. Needs complex structuring. Willing to pay top dollar for discretion. Derek. I could handle that. How soon does he want to meet? Harold. This week, if you are available. He specifically asked for you. Said he heard you were the rising star at the firm. I could practically hear Derek's ego inflating through the phone. The meeting was set for Friday afternoon. Derek had no idea he was walking into a trap. He had no idea that Marcus would be playing the client, recording everything with legally disclosed equipment. He had no idea we already had evidence of his embezzlement, his spyware, his systematic destruction of my family relationships. He thought he was about to save himself with one big score. Instead, he was about to confess to everything. I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I just felt tired and sad. This was my little brother, the kid who used to follow me around, asking to play video games. The teenager who called me when he got his first girlfriend drama, asking for advice. The young man who had stood as my groomsman when Amanda and Wait, we were not married yet. The young man who I once thought I knew. When had he turned into this? Thursday night. The night before the trap was supposed to spring. I could not sleep. Amanda found me on our apartment balcony at 2 a.m, staring at the Portland skyline. You okay? She asked, wrapping a blanket around both of us. I do not know, I admitted. Part of me wants to see him pay for what he did, and part of me just wants to understand why. Maybe both can be true, she said quietly. Friday morning, I got ready like I was preparing for battle. Harold called at 9. We are on for 2 this afternoon. Marcus is ready. Everything is in place. Then at 10:30, my phone rang. It was Mom. Bertram, she said, her voice strange. Can you come over? Your father wants to talk to you. I drove to my parents' house, my hands tight on the steering wheel. When I arrived, both of them were sitting in the living room, looking uncomfortable. Bertram, Dad said slowly, your mother told me about the phone thing, the spyware. He looked older than I remembered, tired from the heart attack and everything that followed. I owe you an apology. It was the first time in my entire adult life I had heard him say those words to me. But before I could respond, the front door burst open. Derek stood there, his face flushed, his breathing hard. He looked at me with pure hatred and said the words that changed everything. You are trying to destroy me, but I will not let you. Then he pulled out a small plastic bag from his jacket pocket and threw it on the coffee table between us. It landed with a soft thump. Inside the bag was white powder, a lot of it, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that Derek had just made his biggest mistake. What is this? Dad asked, staring at the bag on his coffee table like it was a live grenade. Derek's face was red, his chest heaving. Ask your perfect son. I found it hidden in his apartment. My blood turned to ice. You what? I went over to talk to you this morning, Derek said, his voice shaking with false righteousness. You were not there, but your landlord let me in when I said I needed to grab something I left last time I visited, and I found that, hidden in your desk drawer. I stood up slowly, my mind racing. "You broke into my apartment. I was trying to help you," Derek shouted. "I was trying to understand why you have been acting so strange, saying all these crazy things about me. And then I found drugs. Maybe that explains the paranoia, the accusations, the—" "Derek," Mom said, her voice sharp. "Did you call the police?" He hesitated. Just for a split second, but I saw it. "No, I wanted to talk to you two first. Bertram needs help, not arrest. That was his mistake. If he had really found drugs in my apartment, if he really believed I had a drug problem, he would have called the police immediately. But he did not, because this was not about helping me. This was about framing me." I pulled out my phone. "I am calling the police right now." Derek's face went pale. "What?" "No. We can handle this as a family. You just accused me of possessing illegal drugs," I said calmly, my finger already dialing. "That is a serious criminal allegation. We should absolutely involve the police. Let them test whatever is in that bag, dust it for fingerprints, and investigate how it ended up in my apartment." For the first time, I saw real fear in my brother's eyes. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Two officers who looked simultaneously bored and annoyed to be mediating what they clearly thought was family drama. But when they saw the bag on the table, their demeanor shifted. "Who found this?" the older officer asked. "I did," Derek said, his voice less certain now. "In my brother's apartment. I was worried about him and—" "So you entered his apartment without his permission?" the officer asked, pulling out a notepad. "The landlord let me in," Derek said quickly. The officer looked at me. "Is that true? Did you give your brother permission to enter your home?" "Absolutely not," I said. "I want to file a report for breaking and entering. And I want that substance tested immediately, because I have never seen it before in my life." The younger officer was already pulling on gloves, photographing the bag, labeling it for evidence. The older officer turned to Derek. "Sir, I am going to need you to come down to the station to answer some questions." Derek's face went from red to white. "I did not do anything wrong. I was trying to help." "Then you will not mind answering questions," the officer said flatly. "I watched my brother get escorted out of my parents' house, and I felt absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just a cold, clear certainty that this was far from over." After the police left, Dad sat heavily on the couch. "What just happened?" Mom was staring at the spot where the bag had been. "He broke into your apartment." I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. "I need you at my apartment building right now. I need you to pull security footage from this morning." Then I called Amanda. Derek just tried to frame me for drug possession. Her gasp was sharp. "Are you okay?" "I am fine. But I need you to meet me at home. We need to document everything before the police get there with a warrant." "Bertram," Mom said quietly, "I do not understand what is happening." I looked at my mother, this woman who had spent years making me feel invisible, who had believed the worst about me at every turn, who had been ready to cut me out of her life based on lies. And I felt sorry for her, because she was about to learn that her golden child was not just imperfect, he was dangerous. "Mom," I said gently, "I need you to call your lawyer. Both of you need representation for what is coming, because Derek is not just trying to hurt me. He has been stealing from Dad's firm for 18 months. And when that comes out, you are going to need protection." Her face crumbled. No, that is not possible. Harold already has the forensic accounting done," I said. "Derek has embezzled $193,000. He has gambling debts, matching almost exactly. And he has been destroying my relationship with you for months to make sure he inherited everything so you would never audit the books and discover what he did." "Richard," Dad said, his voice barely a whisper. "I am so sorry," I told them both. "I wish I was wrong, but I am not." By the time I got back to my apartment, Marcus was already there with his laptop, pulling footage from the building's security system. Amanda arrived 5 minutes later, and we watched the recording together. There was Derek, 9:47 that morning, walking into my building. He glanced around, clearly nervous. He approached my door, pulled out a key from his pocket, a copy he must have made months ago during some family gathering. He entered my apartment, was inside for less than 10 minutes, then left. Marcus zoomed in on Derek's jacket pocket. When he went in, the pocket was flat. When he came out, it was empty but shaped differently, like something had been removed. He brought the drugs with him, Amanda said. He planted them. Marcus nodded. And now we have video proof. He looked at me seriously. Bertram, this is not just family drama anymore. Your brother just committed multiple felonies, breaking and entering, planting evidence, filing a false police report. If those drugs test positive for anything serious, he could be looking at serious prison time. Good, I said, and meant it. The police arrived an hour later with a warrant to search my apartment. I let them in willingly, showed them my space, opened every drawer and closet. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. Then I showed them the security footage. The lead detective, a woman in her 40s named Rodriguez, watched the video 3 times. Then she looked at me with new eyes. Mr. Johnson, I owe you an apology. We will be amending our investigation. Your brother is now the primary suspect. I would like to press full charges, I said. Breaking and entering, planting evidence, attempted framing, whatever else applies. Rodriguez nodded. We will be in touch. And Mr. Johnson? She hesitated. Be careful. People who go this far do not usually stop on their own. Her words echoed in my head long after she left. That night, Harold called. Derek is being held for questioning. They tested the substance. It is cocaine, about 2 ounces worth. If he had succeeded in framing you, you would be looking at felony possession with intent to distribute. My hands shook. How did he even get cocaine? Harold was quiet for a moment. Remember I told you Derek's been doing accounting work for some of the firm's law enforcement clients? Evidence processing contracts? Oh God, I said. Yeah, Harold confirmed. I think he stole it from an evidence locker, which is a whole other set of crimes. The next morning, I woke to my phone ringing. It was Mom. He confessed, she said, her voice hollow. Derek confessed to everything. The spyware, the embezzlement, the drugs, all of it. She was crying now. Bertram, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. But I barely heard her. Because I was thinking about Derek, my little brother, sitting in an interrogation room, his entire life falling apart. Had he cried? Had he tried to blame me even then? Had there been even a moment where he considered telling the truth sooner, before it got this bad? Mom, I said carefully, you and Dad need to prepare yourselves. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know, she whispered. His lawyer says he is looking at 5 to 10 years. I closed my eyes. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sick. And part of me just felt incredibly, overwhelmingly sad. Derek had destroyed himself trying to destroy me. And the worst part was, I had never been his competition. I had just been trying to survive. The next week passed in a blur of lawyers, police statements, and family members who suddenly wanted to know my side of the story. Aunt Carol became my unofficial spokesperson, fielding calls and visits while I tried to process everything that had happened. Amanda barely left my side. She took time off work, canceled plans, and appointed herself my personal guardian against the chaos swirling around us. One morning I woke up to find her sitting at our kitchen table, laptop open, legal pad covered in notes. What are you doing? I asked. Research, she said without looking up. Derek is out on bail. His lawyer is good. There is a chance he could cut a deal, get minimal time, maybe even probation if he plays it right. So, she looked up at me with fierce eyes. You need to make sure the full truth comes out, not just the crimes, the why behind them. Because if Derek gets to control the narrative, he will make himself the victim. She was right. I knew she was right, but I was so tired of fighting. That afternoon, Harold called with news. "Bertram, we need to talk." Derek's lawyer reached out. "They want to negotiate." We met at Harold's office, which felt safer than anywhere connected to my family. Harold's lawyer, Patricia Wallace, was there too. She was a sharp woman in her 50s with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Here is what they are offering," Patricia said, sliding a document across the table. "Derek pleads guilty to embezzlement and computer crimes. He serves 18 months minimum, probation after. In exchange, he does not contest the evidence, and he agrees to repay the stolen funds through structured payments." "What about the drug charges?" I asked. "Those would be dropped as part of the plea," she said. "The prosecution does not want the publicity of a stolen evidence scandal. If it comes out that Derek accessed police evidence lockers, it opens up every case he touched to appeal. So he gets away with trying to frame me," I said flatly. Patricia leaned forward. "Not if we file a civil suit. Criminal charges have standards and politics. Civil court is different. We can sue Derek for emotional distress, defamation, harassment, interference with family relationships. We can make him pay in ways that hurt more than prison time." I looked at Harold. "What do you think?" "I think," Harold said slowly, "that 18 months is not enough for what he did to you. But I also think that sometimes the best revenge is living well while your enemy destroys himself." Over the next few days, I thought about it constantly. Did I want Derek to suffer? Yes. Did I want him to pay for what he had done? Absolutely. But did I want to spend the next 2 years of my life in and out of court, reliving his betrayal over and over? Amanda and I talked late into the night. She held my hand and said, "Whatever you decide, I support you. But remember, you are not doing this for them. You are doing this for you." In the end, I made a decision. I would accept the plea deal on one condition. Derek had to sit down with me, face to face, and explain why. No lawyers, no parents, just him and me. Patricia was skeptical. "That is not standard procedure." "I do not care," I said. "If he wants my cooperation with this deal, he has to give me that." To my surprise, Derek agreed. We met at a neutral location, a small conference room Harold rented for the day. Security was outside. Patricia and Derek's lawyer waited in adjacent rooms. But in that moment, it was just me and my little brother, sitting across a table from each other for the first time since everything exploded. Derek looked terrible. He had lost weight. His eyes were hollow. His hands shook slightly as he folded them on the table. "I do not know where to start," he said quietly. "Start with the truth," I said. "Why did you hate me so much?" He laughed, but it was bitter and broken. "I did not hate you, Bertram. I hated that you got to be you. I do not understand." He looked up, and I saw tears in his eyes. "You got to leave. You got to choose your own path. Follow your dreams. Do what made you happy. And they let you. They complained, sure. They were disappointed. But they let you go." His voice cracked. "I never had that choice. From the time I was 16, it was understood. I would join the firm. I would be the son who stayed. I would be the one who made them proud. Derek, do you know what Dad said when I told him I wanted to study marine biology?" Derek continued, the words pouring out now like poison. He laughed. Actually laughed. He said I could minor in it if I wanted, but my major needed to be accounting or business. Because the firm needed me. Because I was going to be his legacy. I sat back, stunned. I never knew that. "Of course you did not." Derek wiped his eyes roughly. "You were already gone. You were already the family disappointment. I had to be the perfect one. And do you know what the worst part was? I was good at it. I was really good at accounting. I just hated every single minute of it. That does not explain why you tried to destroy me. I said, keeping my voice level. Because you were free, he said simply. Even as the disappointment, even as the son they wrote off, you were free. You had Amanda. You had work you loved. You had a life that was yours. And I had nothing. Just debts and expectations and this crushing weight of being the golden child. So you gambled, I said. He nodded. It started small. Just something to feel alive. Something risky. Something that was mine. Then it got bigger and bigger. And suddenly I owed people who do not care that your dad is a respected accountant. And the embezzlement? I was drowning, he whispered. I thought I could win it back. I thought I could fix it before anyone noticed. But I just kept losing. And the more I lost, the more I needed the inheritance to be mine alone. Because if you got half, there would be audits, valuations, reviews. They would find what I did. So you decided to turn Mom and Dad against me completely, I said. Derek's face twisted. I told myself I was just leveling the playing field. You already had everything that mattered. They could give me the one thing I needed, their money, their business. I convinced myself you would not even care. But I did care, I said quietly. Not about the money, about them, about being part of the family. I know, Derek said, and he started crying in earnest now. I know that now. But by the time I realized it, I was in too deep. The spyware, the lies, the manipulation. I could not stop. And then you found out about the will, and I panicked. I thought if I could just make one final push, one last lie to make them hate you completely, it would be over. I could inherit everything, pay off my debts, and start over. Instead, you destroyed yourself, I said. Yeah, he nodded, his face in his hands. Yeah, I did. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. Was any of it real? Growing up, being brothers. Did you ever actually care about me? Or was I always just an obstacle? Derek looked up, and for the first time, I saw my little brother again. Not the criminal, not the manipulator, just the kid who used to build blanket forts with me on rainy Sundays. It was real, he said softly. All of it was real. I loved you, Bertram. I looked up to you. And then, somewhere along the way, that love turned into resentment, and I did not even notice until it was too late. I felt tears on my own face now. I am sorry you felt trapped. I am sorry Mom and Dad put that pressure on you. But what you did to me, Derek, what you did to our family, I cannot forgive that. I know, he said. I do not expect you to. I stood up. You are going to prison. You are going to lose everything. And part of me is glad, but part of me just wishes you had talked to me, wishes you had asked for help before it got this bad. Would you have helped me? He asked. I looked at my brother, this person I once knew better than anyone, now a stranger sitting across from me in a rented room. Yeah, I said. I would have. That is the difference between us, Derek. You thought life was a competition. I just wanted us both to win. I left him there, crying at the table. Patricia was waiting outside. How did it go? She asked. He explained everything, I said. I am done. Let him take his plea deal. I just want this to be over. But it was not over. Not yet. Because the next day, I got a call from the hospital. Dad had collapsed again. Another heart attack, worse than the first. And as I raced back to Mercy Hospital, I realized that sometimes justice is not clean. Sometimes winning means everyone loses something. The emergency room waiting area was packed with family again, but this time the atmosphere was different, heavier, more afraid. Aunt Carol met me at the door, her face pale. It is bad, Bertram. It is really bad this time. Mom was in a chair, rocking slightly, her sister beside her. When she saw me, she stood up, and for the first time in my adult life, my mother looked small, fragile, lost. Please, she said, gripping my arm. Please do not leave. I know I do not deserve to ask, but please. I am here, I said quietly. I am not going anywhere. Derek was there too, in the corner, handcuffs off but a guard nearby. His bail had included permission to attend family emergencies. He looked at me with red, swollen eyes but said nothing. Harold arrived 30 minutes later with Patricia. He pulled me aside. The doctors say it is serious. The stress of everything with Derek, the shock, the betrayal, Richard's heart could not take it. Is he going to die? I asked, the words feeling strange and heavy. Harold's face was grim. They do not know yet. He is in surgery now. We waited. Hours passed. Family members came and went. People whispered in corners. Someone brought coffee that no one drank. Aunt Carol tried to get Mom to eat something. Derek sat alone, untouchable, a pariah in his own family. Around midnight, the surgeon emerged. He looked exhausted. Mrs. Johnson? Mom stood up so fast she nearly fell. Carol steadied her. Your husband made it through surgery, the doctor said, and Mom gasped with relief. But I need you to understand how serious this is. He had significant damage to his heart. We have done everything we can. But the next 48 hours are critical. Can I see him? Mom asked. Soon. He is in ICU. Immediate family only, 2 at a time. Mom looked at me, then at Derek, then back at me. Bertram, will you come with me? I saw Derek flinch like he had been slapped, but he said nothing. What could he say? Dad looked so small in that hospital bed. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that beeped steadily, tracking his fragile grip on life. His eyes were closed. His chest rose and fell with mechanical regularity. Mom took his hand carefully, crying quietly. I stood at the foot of the bed, feeling like an intruder. Then Dad's eyes opened, just slightly. He saw Mom first. She leaned down, whispering something I could not hear. Then his eyes found me. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. His hand moved slightly, and I realized he was trying to reach for me. I moved closer, taking his other hand. It felt cold and papery. Dad tried to talk again. His voice was barely a whisper. Sorry. That was it. One word. But it contained everything. Sorry for choosing Derek. Sorry for not seeing me. Sorry for all the years of comparing and diminishing and erasing. Sorry for almost dying before he could tell me. I squeezed his hand gently. Just focus on getting better. His eyes closed again, exhausted from the effort of those few seconds. But his hand held mine for a moment longer, before going slack. Over the next 3 days, Dad stabilized. Slowly, carefully. Mom practically lived at the hospital. I visited twice a day. Amanda came with me, her steady presence keeping me grounded. Harold handled the business, fielding calls and managing clients. Derek was allowed one brief visit, supervised and silent. On the 4th day, Dad was awake enough to really talk. Mom, Carol, Harold, and I were in the room when he asked the question we had all been avoiding. How bad is the damage? To the firm, Harold was honest. Derek stole almost $200,000. But we have caught it. We have frozen his accounts and started asset recovery. The firm will survive, Richard. It will take some work, but it will survive. Dad nodded slowly. And Derek? Going to prison, Mom said quietly. 18 months minimum. Dad closed his eyes. My son, my boy. His voice broke. How did I not see it? Because you saw what you wanted to see, I said gently. We all did. No, Dad said, opening his eyes and looking at me. I saw what I wanted Derek to be, and I did not see what you actually were. His eyes filled with tears. You built a life, Bertram. A good life. Without my help. Without my approval. Maybe even in spite of me. And instead of being proud, I was angry that you did not need me. The honesty of it hit me hard. I had spent so many years wondering what I did wrong, how I failed to measure up. It had never occurred to me that maybe my independence was the threat. "I forgive you," I said, and meant it. "But Dad, things cannot go back to how they were." "I know," he said. "I do not expect them to." That night, Derek's lawyer called with an update. Derek had formally accepted the plea deal. 18 months in minimum security, 5 years probation, full restitution of stolen funds, permanent ban from accounting work. He would report to serve his sentence in 30 days. Part of me felt satisfaction. Part of me felt nothing. And part of me just felt sad for everyone involved. 2 weeks later, Dad was released from the hospital. Harold had arranged for in-home care and a strict regimen of rest, therapy, and medication. The doctors were cautiously optimistic about his recovery, but made it clear he could never return to the stress of running a business. Richard spent a week talking with Harold, his lawyers, and financial advisors. Then he called a family meeting at his house. Mom, Carol, Harold, Patricia, Amanda, Derek, and I gathered in their living room. Derek sat separate from everyone, his guard waiting outside. Dad looked older but stronger than he had in the hospital. He had a folder of papers in his lap. "I have made some decisions," he said. "The firm is being sold to Harold under a structured buyout. He will retain the name, the clients, and the reputation. I will receive fair market value, minus Derek's theft and associated damages." Harold nodded. "We have already started the paperwork. The proceeds from the sale, along with our other assets, will be divided equally between our sons," Dad continued. "Bertram, you will receive your half immediately. Derek, your portion will be held in trust to cover restitution, legal fees, and victim compensation. Any remainder will be released to you upon completion of your sentence and probation." Derek's face was unreadable. "Additionally," Dad said, looking at Derek now, "you are no longer welcome in this house or in my life until you have served your time and completed genuine rehabilitation. Your mother and I will not visit you in prison. We will not write. We will not send money. You made choices that nearly killed me and destroyed your brother. You must face the consequences alone." Derek's face crumpled. "Dad." "No," Dad said firmly. "You are my son. I love you, but I cannot enable you anymore. When you get out, if you have truly changed, we can talk. But until then, you are on your own." It was the harshest thing I had ever heard my father say, and it was the most loving, because Derek needed to face what he had done without his parents cushioning the fall. Mom was crying silently, but she nodded in agreement. Derek looked at me then. "I do not expect forgiveness, but I am sorry, Bertram, for all of it." "I know you are," I said, "but sorry does not fix what you broke." "I know," he whispered. The guard escorted Derek out a few minutes later. We watched him go, this person who used to be part of our family, now just a cautionary tale about jealousy and desperation. After Derek left, Dad turned to me. "Bertram, I know money does not fix what your mother and I did, but I want you to have this." He handed me the folder. "It is all the documentation for your share of the estate. You and Amanda can buy a house, invest in your business, do whatever you want, no strings attached." I took the folder, but did not open it. "Thank you. But Dad, I need you to understand something. I did not want your money. I never wanted your money. I just wanted you to see me. I see you now," he said quietly, "and I am proud of what I see." It was what I had wanted to hear my entire life. And now that I finally heard it, I realized it did not heal the old wounds. It just made them ache differently. 6 months passed. Derek had been in prison for 4 months. Dad continued his recovery, slowly regaining strength under Mom's watchful care. Harold successfully transitioned the firm under his ownership, and the Johnson name still meant something in Portland accounting circles. Amanda and I used my inheritance differently than anyone expected. We did not buy a house or fancy cars. Instead, I invested it in opening my own design studio, a small space in the Pearl District, with room for 3 employees and dreams of growth. Amanda went back to school part-time to get her master's in education administration. We got engaged on a random Tuesday evening when we were cooking dinner together. No grand gesture, no elaborate plan. Just me looking at her across our tiny kitchen and realizing I wanted every boring Tuesday night for the rest of my life to look exactly like this. She said yes before I even finished asking. My relationship with my parents was complicated. We had dinner once a month, usually at a neutral restaurant. Dad asked about my business with genuine interest. Mom sent articles she found about design trends, trying to understand my world. It was awkward. It was effortful, but it was honest. Aunt Carol became a bridge between us, helping navigate the tricky conversations about Derek. Because even though Derek was in prison, he was still Mom's son, still Dad's child, and they grieved for him in ways I tried to understand. 3 months before Derek's release, Mom asked if I would visit him with her. "I do not think that is a good idea," I said carefully. She nodded, not surprised. "Will you ever forgive him?" "I do not know," I admitted, "but I have forgiven you and Dad. That is the best I can do right now." "That is more than we deserve," she said quietly. One afternoon, Harold stopped by my studio. He brought coffee and sat in my tiny office, looking around with approval at what I had built. "Your father would never admit it," Harold said, "but he talks about you constantly. Your designs are all over their house. He shows everyone your portfolio on his phone." I smiled. "That is strange to hear. He is a stubborn man, always has been. But losing Derek the way he did, nearly dying himself, it changed his perspective." Harold looked at me seriously. "He is proud of you, Bertram. He just does not always know how to show it." "I am learning to be okay with that," I said. 2 weeks before our wedding, Derek was released from prison. I knew because Mom called to tell me. She asked, very carefully, if he could attend the wedding. "No," I said without hesitation. "This day is about me and Amanda, about our future. Derek is your son, and I understand you love him, but he is not part of my life anymore." She was disappointed but did not argue. The wedding was small, 70 guests at a winery in the Willamette Valley. Amanda looked stunning in a simple dress she found at a boutique in southeast Portland. I wore a suit I actually liked. Harold was my best man. Aunt Carol read a Mary Oliver poem about love and wilderness. Dad and Mom sat in the 3rd row, not the front at my request. During the ceremony, as I said my vows to Amanda, I kept my eyes on her face, on her smile, on the tears streaming down her cheeks. I did not look at my parents. I did not think about Derek sitting in his halfway house. I did not think about the years I wasted trying to earn love from people who were incapable of giving it freely. I just thought about Amanda, about the life we were going to build together, about the family we would create, one that chose each other every single day. At the reception, Dad approached me while Amanda was dancing with her father. He handed me an envelope. "I told you no wedding gift," I said. "Open it," he insisted. Inside was a check for the full amount Derek had embezzled, plus interest. $193,000. "Dad, what is this?" "Your mother and I talked. Derek stole from the firm. Yes, but he also stole your relationship with us. He stole years of your life spent trying to prove yourself. We cannot give you back that time, but we can make sure you start your marriage without our failures weighing you down. Use it however you want." I looked at the check, at the number that represented so much pain and betrayal. Then I looked at my father, this man who had spent my whole life not understanding me and was now desperately trying to make amends in the only language he knew, money. I handed it back to him. "Thank you, but no. Put it toward Mom's therapy and your own. Amanda and I are building our life with our own hands, the way it should be." Dad's eyes filled with tears. You are a better man than I deserved as a son." "I know," I said, echoing the words from months before. "But maybe that is enough." He pulled me into a hug then, a real one, the kind I used to dream about as a kid, and I let him hold me, this imperfect father who finally saw me too late, and I felt something inside me release. Not forgiveness, exactly, but acceptance. Of what was, of what would never be, and of what might be possible if we all kept trying. Later that night, as Amanda and I slow danced to the last song, she whispered in my ear, "Are you happy?" I looked around the room, at Harold, laughing with his wife, at Aunt Carol wiping her eyes, at my parents watching us from the edge of the dance floor, their faces full of something that might have been regret or might have been pride or might have been both. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it. But something made me check. It was a text, from a number I did not recognize, but I knew who it was. "Derek, you looked happy today. I saw the photos Carol posted. I am glad. You deserve it. I am sorry I tried to take it from you." I stared at the message for a long moment. Amanda looked over my shoulder, read it, and squeezed my hand. "You do not have to respond." "I know," I said, "but maybe I want to." I typed slowly, carefully. "Me, I hope you find whatever you were looking for. I hope prison gave you time to figure out who you are without comparing yourself to me. Take care of yourself, Derek." I did not add anything else. No forgiveness, no reconciliation, just an acknowledgement that he was still a person, still my brother, still trying to figure out his life the way we all were. His response came 2 minutes later. "Derek, thank you. That is more than I deserve." I put my phone away and pulled Amanda closer. The song was ending. Our wedding was almost over. Tomorrow we would leave for a honeymoon in the San Juan Islands. Next week, we would come back and start our real life together. But in that moment, dancing with the woman I loved, surrounded by people who actually saw me, I felt something I had not felt in years. Peace. 3 years later, I stood in my expanded studio space, looking at the new sign we had just hung outside, Johnson Design Collective. We had grown from 3 employees to 12. Our client list included regional brands, national campaigns, and one project that had won an industry award I used to dream about. Amanda was now an assistant principal at her school, making real changes in how they supported struggling students. We had bought a small house in the suburbs, nothing fancy, but it was ours. We had a dog named Charlie, and plans for kids in the next year or 2. Dad had fully retired. He spent his time gardening, attending cardiac rehab, and learning to play guitar, something he had always wanted to do but never had time for. Mom had continued therapy and started volunteering at a women's shelter, working through her own patterns of conditional love by learning to give freely to strangers. Derek had been out of prison for almost 2 years. He worked at a nonprofit that helped formerly incarcerated people find jobs and housing. He made $12 an hour and lived in a studio apartment in Gresham. We had not spoken since the text after my wedding. Mom said he asked about me sometimes. She said he was different, quieter, maybe wiser. I did not know if that was true, and I had stopped needing to know. Harold had built the firm into something even bigger than it had been under Dad's leadership. He called sometimes just to talk, and I realized he had become something like a second father to me, the kind who showed up because he wanted to, not because blood obligated him. One Sunday afternoon, 3 years and 2 months after that terrible night, when I overheard my parents writing me out of their will, they came to our house for dinner. It was the first time they had visited our home. They brought wine and a store-bought pie, and they were nervous in a way that made my heart ache. Dad walked through our house slowly, looking at the photos on the walls. Pictures of Amanda and me traveling, pictures of our wedding, pictures of my design awards and her teaching recognition, pictures of a life built without their approval or support. "This is really lovely," he said quietly. You have built something beautiful here. Thank you, I said. We worked hard for it. Mom stood in the kitchen, helping Amanda make salad, and I heard her laugh at something Amanda said. It was a real laugh, not performative, not forced, just genuine enjoyment of my wife's company. We ate dinner on our back patio, watching the sun set over the Portland skyline in the distance. The conversation was easier than it had ever been. Dad told stories about his guitar lessons. Mom talked about the women she met at the shelter. Amanda shared funny stories about her students. I talked about a new campaign we were pitching. At one point, Dad looked at me and said, "I have been thinking a lot lately about what it means to be a father." "Yeah?" I said, carefully neutral. "I always thought it meant preparing you for the world, making sure you could succeed, pushing you toward the right choices." He set down his fork. "But I realize now that I was trying to create a version of you that fit my idea of success, instead of helping you become the best version of yourself." Mom reached over and took his hand. "We both did that. To both of you." "Derek made his own choices," I said. "The bad ones were his, not yours. But we created the environment where those choices felt necessary," Dad said. "We made you compete for our love, instead of just giving it freely. And that is something your mother and I will regret for the rest of our lives." It was the most honest thing he had ever said to me, and I felt the last piece of anger I had been carrying finally start to dissolve. "I forgive you," I said. "Both of you. It has taken me a long time, and I am still working through some of it, but I forgive you." Mom started crying. Amanda got up and gave her a tissue, rubbing her back gently. After they left, Amanda and I cleaned up the kitchen together. She was quiet, thoughtful. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "That you are one of the bravest people I know," she said. "It takes real courage to forgive people who hurt you that deeply. It takes even more courage to let them back in, even just a little bit." "I do not know if it is courage," I said. "Maybe I am just tired of being angry." She kissed me. "Whatever it is, I am proud of you." That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Derek, about the text he sent on my wedding day, about the brother I used to have, and the stranger he had become. I wondered if he was happy, if he had found peace, if he ever thought about that day in the hallway when everything started to unravel. I pulled out my phone and, before I could overthink it, I sent him a message. Me. "Hey, I know it has been a long time. Amanda and I are thinking about starting a family soon. When that happens, I want my kids to know they have an uncle. Not right away, and not without boundaries, but someday. If you are interested." I did not expect a response that night. But 15 minutes later, my phone lit up. "Derek, I would really like that. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. Me. I did not do it for you. I did it for me, because holding on to hate was poisoning me more than it was hurting you. Derek. Fair enough. For what it is worth, I am proud of you. I always was, even when I pretended not to be. You built something real, something that matters. I wasted years trying to tear you down instead of building myself up. Me. You still have time to build, Derek. You are only 28. Derek. I know. I am trying. It is harder than I thought it would be. Me. Everything worth doing is. We texted back and forth for another hour. It was not reconciliation. It was not even really forgiveness. But it was a start, a tiny crack in the wall I had built between us. And maybe that was enough for now. 6 months later, Amanda and I found out we were pregnant. We told our parents over dinner at their house. Mom cried. Dad pulled out his phone and immediately started looking at grandfather-appropriate hobbies. It was overwhelming and annoying and perfect. As we drove home that night, Amanda rested her hand on her still flat belly and said, "We are going to do this differently." "Yeah," I said. "We are," and I meant it. Because I had learned, through pain and betrayal and years of feeling invisible, what family was supposed to look like. It was not about blood or obligation or conditional love. It was about choosing each other every day, about seeing people for who they really were and loving them anyway, about building something strong enough to weather storms and gentle enough to nurture growth. The text from Mom that night, the one that said it was over between us, had not been the end. It had been a beginning. The beginning of me understanding that I did not need their approval to have value. That fighting back did not mean revenge. It meant standing up for truth, even when it cost me everything. Derek was in prison, paying for his choices. My parents were full of regret, trying to make amends. And I was here, dancing with my pregnant wife in our kitchen, surrounded by a life so full of love and purpose that the people who once rejected me now realized what they had lost. Justice was not always loud. Sometimes it was just building a life so complete that forgiveness became possible. Not because the people who hurt you deserved it, but because you deserved to be free from the weight of their failures. If I could go back and tell my younger self anything, standing in that hallway overhearing my parents write me out of their lives, I would say this: let them go. Not with anger, not with bitterness. Just let them go. Because the people who truly love you will not make you fight for crumbs of affection. They will give freely, see clearly, and choose consistently. And the life you build on your own terms, with people who genuinely see you, will be worth more than any inheritance they could leave you. My brother thought he could erase me from our parents' lives and claim everything for himself. Instead, he erased himself. My parents thought I was the failure, because I chose a different path. Now they understand that failure is not about the path you choose. It is about losing yourself trying to please people who cannot be pleased. I did not win because Derek lost. I won because I stopped competing. I built a life based on my own values, loved by people who chose me freely, and found peace in knowing that my worth was never theirs to determine. Some messages do not need answers. Some victories are just living well. And some families are not the ones you are born into, but the ones you build with intention, love, and the courage to demand better. That is what I learned. That is what I carry forward. And that is what I will teach my children. You are worthy, exactly as you are. And anyone who cannot see that is missing out on knowing someone extraordinary. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever had to choose between being yourself and being accepted? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. I would love to hear how you navigated your own journey to finding people who truly see you. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they are not alone in their struggles. And if you have not already, subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about family, betrayal, justice, and finding yourself when the world tries to define you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who is still fighting for approval from people who will never give it freely. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for each other is share our stories and say, I see you. You are not alone. Your worth is not negotiable. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope wherever you are in your own journey, you find the courage to build the life you deserve, surrounded by people who celebrate who you really are. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.